Good morning. Thank you for coming to MIX06. It's great to see everyone here. I got a chance last night to talk to several of you. I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to show you what we have. Technology is obviously changing the way we interact with customers. We all know this. We're here, as Bill said, to have a focused discussion on the impact of the latest software technology on how we connect with customers. And it's not just the impact, but the opportunity that the software creates. Today, I'm going to talk about the latest advances in browsing experience and subscriptions and syndication. Tomorrow, Joe Belfiore is going to talk about life beyond the browser, the other three disks. Before we talk about the next generation browser, I kind of want to talk about the last generation browser. Now, when Microsoft started working on Internet Explorer, the pace of innovation, I think, was pretty impressive. But it's not actually just the pace. I think about the content of the innovation. I think about dynamic HTML. I think about XML HTTP. Today, those are the foundations of AJAX-style programming. I think about some of the original work on cascading style sheets. And, it was good. Then, crickets. Okay. So I've talked to a lot of people, and I've listened to customers, to developers, I've listened to security analysts, I've listened to industry analysts, and for a lot of people, anything short of an apology to them just sounds defensive. So I want to be clear. We messed up. We messed up. As committed as we are to the browser, we just didn't do a good job demonstrating it. So I think about the work we did in the browser for Windows Server 2003 with enhanced security configuration. I think about all the security work that went into Windows XP SP2. What I heard from people was, that's good, but we want more. And what I want to say today is, we get it. We hear you, we get it, we're committed. And I want to show you that today. And after I'm done showing it to you today, I want to show it to you again tomorrow, and then again and again with what we deliver. So what's the goal of the next generation browsers? We talk about the next generation browser. Well, I think the goal is to enable you to succeed as you never have before as you connect with your customers and engage them on the web. I think about this as having three parts. The first part is, I'm a user, I'm browsing the web, I want to have a great experience. What does that mean? Well, it means I can get back to your site easily, I can search your site easily, I can do business with your site easily, I can, it's just all that stuff just works. The second part is that I have a good trust experience. I have confidence that I can do business with you on the web as an end user. And there's a lot going on there today. And the last part is probably the part that's most under your control and the bulk of the conversation this morning, which is, how do you have the richest possible site experience? How do you give customers the best possible set of activities, set of experiences when they come to your site to do business with you? Before I demonstrate what I mean by the next generation browser, I want to announce that there is an updated build of Internet Explorer 7 on the web right now. You can go to Microsoft.com/IE. I should point out that the disks that you got in your bag have a slightly older version of that browser. We updated it since burning the disks. We thought there were some changes that were important. This is for XP SP2. You shouldn't throw out the disks for what it's worth. There are a bunch of great tools on the disk, the readiness toolkit, all sorts of great samples are on there. Please use both, but please go and get the new build that's up on the web. Okay. With that, I want to start showing you what I mean by the next generation browse experience. Okay. So here I am running Windows Vista, NIE7. And you'll see that the Chrome, all the user interface, is simplified and cleaner and minimal and off to the side, so that the user can focus on your site. Key activity is searching the web. So, of course, IE has a search box. Let's drop it down. And what you'll see here is that I, the user, have got more than just the big search engines. I've added eBay and I've added ESPN because that's part of how I use the web. When I use the web, I want to have quick access to these sites. If I go up and I hear about a cool new gadget or toy, eBay is now one click away. I can go and search. If I'm reading my webmail or I see an article about something in the sports, one click away I can go and search ESPN. Well, how did these sites become available to me up here? Well, let me show you an example. Somebody recently told me about an interesting site called WebShots. So let me navigate up there, and I'll try it out. It's a photo search site, so let me go and do a search for dogs. And they come back with a bunch of pictures of dogs. Pretty impressive. I can go down here, and I might try this out for a while and go, you know what? I actually search for photos every day, every way. It's just one of the things that I do. I want it to be easier for me to search web shots all the time, no matter where I am on the web. Well, as I scroll down here, you'll see that they added a link called Add Web Shot Search to IE7. Now, they did this through the power of OpenSearch. OpenSearch is an open standard that the really smart folks over at A9, division of Amazon, came up with. It's an XML description that a site puts out of how to search it. So it's very easy for a browser that supports it, like IE7, to go through and add searching a site to the dropdown. Let me show you another way that we go beyond the standard search box. If you notice, this down arrow is lit up orange. When I click it, it actually discovered that this page was offering search. The CNET guys who run this really wanted to make it easy for users to search this site again and again. So they added tags to their page that IE7 picks up and says, all right, well, when the user drops the search box down, we're going to show them WebShot search. And I could click here and type dogs, and then go down and search WebShots again and get the same results. And then, if I decide I want it, I don't even have to look for that OpenSearch link. I can add it directly from here. And again, under the user's control, at the user's discretion, they can have a much better time connecting with you, a much easier time connecting with you, and always be able to search your site. Now that I'm here, let me actually open up a couple of these. I'm going to open up a couple of tabs. It's a cute dog. That's a cute dog, too. That's not a cute dog, but, well, I'll just open it up. So, tabs are a good thing. But the thing about tabs isn't that you have them, but, well, that you have all the tools you need for all the activities that go along now that you have tabs. Let me give you an example. Now that these tabs are up, I really can't remember which one was Sassy and which one was Hug-A-Bear. So I'm going to go over to Quick Tabs. And it's very easy for me to see a preview of the pages and say, yeah, that was the mistaken click. And that was cute. That's not a great photo, but this is actually the one that I want. Now, if it turns out that these are tabs that I want to go back to all the time, like these are pages with photos that get updated a lot, and I want to navigate back there all the time, there's another activity called creating a tab group out of these favorites, and it's very easy for me, one click away, to go and do that. Let me actually put these away and go up to a March Madness tab set. And you'll see this is just a folder. So actually, I actually created this folder in IE6. It was just a folder of favorites. When I upgraded, it automatically became a folder that I could explode out into a set of tabs. And I'm going to come over here and see a bunch of basketball sites, and it was very easy for me to do that. Now, because it's March Madness, if this is my life for the next couple of weeks, it's very easy for me to change my homepage set. Changing your homepage is no longer buried in Tools Options. Come on, it's a thing that you see all the time. So it's very easy for the user to say, hey, these are the tabs that I want every time I open up the browser. Let's, please make that my homepage set. Add just this page. I like this one, just glom it on. Or use this. This is the one homepage that I really want. Why is that important? Because after the user discovers that they really like your site and they really care about your stuff, we want to make it easy for them to come back to the site again and again. Another common activity is printing. So if you come up over here and let's take a look at Print Preview, you'll see that the page actually prints correctly and nothing is cut down the right side. You get the full banner. If I I change it to 100%, but you all know that it would get cut off, so I'll just skip that part. It's very easy in this view to go through and change the margins if you just a little bit over past the page and want to adjust that. It's also easy to go through and see multiple pages and see all the pages that before they print out. All right. Another common activity, frankly, is zooming, or rather that you'd want to be a common activity is zooming. It turns out that no matter how good your web page is, somebody's going to want to zoom. It could be my 70-year-old father who's running on a small notebook. It could be me running on a big monitor in way too high a resolution. I can come down over here and just a click, zoom up very easily, zoom up to another preset, or go through and choose pretty much any value I want in order to see this page better. All right, so that's all I'm going to show you the next generation browser experience right now. I want to move on and talk about confidence. So I talked about the trust experience and the confidence that people need in order to do business with you on the web. I think of the last few years as marking the rise of the purely malicious web. The intent of pure malice on the web, the people who are just doing bad things for the sake of doing bad things, has just spiked and will never be able to go back. The next generation browser needs to protect users from getting ripped off. And I think about protecting users in two ways. I think about technology solutions for technological vulnerabilities. And you can see lots of those in the breakout sessions and in the hands-on labs. And then I think about solutions that offer a good experience as well as strong technology, especially when a human being is involved. And I want to give you an example. I have an older brother, and I love him dearly, but he's just not that bright. He's a nuclear cardiologist. And invariably, well, let me just show you what I imagine happens when he goes into the hospital with his computer. So he goes in there, and he's trying to get the site to work so he can see all the nuclear images, whatever those are, of the heart. And it doesn't quite work out. He calls the tech. And the tech goes, oh, yeah, you need to drop your security settings. And my brother goes, no, my brother works at Microsoft. He told me never to do that. And the tech goes, no, just trust me. This is what you need to do. Just click over here and click over there and click over there. My brother goes, it's turning bright red like blood. I feel very uncomfortable. Click OK. It says, it's going to put me at risk. And the tech says, yeah, just keep clicking through. That's what you're supposed to do. And now, all of a sudden, it works and he can see these images. There's a cute little yellow bar at the top that says, you're at risk. And my brother doesn't really notice it. But he finishes calling in his reports, and he packs up his computer and he goes home or he goes to an internet cafe somewhere, and he starts the browser back up, having completely forgotten that he's done anything like this. And even though he's forgotten it, IE hasn't. So IE blocks him and basically says, look, your settings are putting you at risk. If you really want to continue at your own peril, you can, but otherwise it's very easy for you to go and fix these settings. And now all of his settings are jacked back up and he can have a secure experience. Notice that IE7 didn't just warn the user, it blocked an unsafe action and made doing the right thing very easy. That's what you should expect from a next generation browser. There's another huge problem that we all face, fraud. I mean, who here has not gotten a piece of phishing email? There's an interesting study that Consumer Reports did of adults over 18 in the United States, and it turns out that 25% of the people they asked stopped buying online out of fear, raw, unmitigated fear. Another 22% cut back. Almost half of your potential customers in the United States, think about it, are leaning back and are scared and are cautious about doing business. If I think about what Microsoft can do here, there's a lot of upside. So beyond the junk mail protection that we offer in services, in email clients, and in email servers, I want to talk about 3 layers of protection that we want to offer around fraud on the internet. First, the phishing filter. The phishing filter is a set of client-side heuristics and a service that protects users today, right now, from phishing on the web. Second is high-assurance certificates. Look, you and I know that today, the lock in the browser just means that my computer is connected up to some other computer and the connection is secure. It's a cryptographically secure pipe. I have no idea what that other computer is or who owns it, but the pipe is very secure. And that's not what users need. Users need and want a bricks and mortar level of confidence that that site really is who it says it is, so they can do business with it. And we've worked with the American Bar Association, we've worked with certificate authorities like GeoTrust and VeriSign, and we've worked with other browser vendors to make sure that there's a consistent, sensible, open way to make sure that we can provide that level of confidence for users on the web. Ultimately, the third solution is InfoCard. InfoCard is a set of technologies that help you manage and control the exchange of your digital identities online. And to show these in action, I'd like to introduce my colleague, Rich Turner. Thank you.
Good morning. In this demonstration, we're going to take a look at some of the new features of Internet Explorer 7 and of InfoCard, which help deliver a much safer online experience. Now, you'll see on the screens that I've got my Outlook open here, and there are a couple of emails waiting for me. These both appear to be from Contoso Rent-A-Car, a company that I use on a regular basis to rent cars from. They appear to both be fairly valid, but this second email actually happens to be a phishing mail. Watch what happens when I click the link. Internet Explorer is warning me that the URL of this site doesn't match the URL held within the certificate protecting this site. Now, I'm going to assume that this may or may not be the Contoso website. I simply don't know at this point, so I'm going to plow through anyway. Now, I see, oh, I thought I saw the Contoso site. What's actually happened is that the IE7 anti-phishing filter has determined that this site is actually on the known phishing website list. Also, combined with the fact that the address bar has now gone red, gives me I don't have much confidence, essentially, that this is the Contoso website. So I'm not going to proceed and interact. Now, IE7 is obviously doing a great deal to help me identify malicious sites, but it also does a great deal to help me identify more trustworthy sites. Here, for example, is the real Contoso site. And you'll notice that the address bar is in fact green. This indicates that this site is protected with a high assurance certificate from a trusted certificate authority. We can also use this little box to validate some of the information about that company held within the certificate that Internet Explorer has actually validated. Here we can see that the certificate was issued by VeriSign and that the company has a particular location that they do business from. So now I have a much higher level of confidence that this is in fact Contoso and not someone masquerading as Contoso. So let's go ahead and log into the site. Now, the Contoso site actually allows me to log in using username and passwords. And if I could actually remember which username and password to use to log into this site at any one moment in time, I might go ahead and log in using that mechanism. However, Contoso also allows me to log in with InfoCard. Now watch what happens when I hit this button. This is the InfoCard UI. In this UI, I have a selection of cards. Some I've created myself, some I've obtained from other third parties. In this particular case, this card is lit up. The card at the top is lit up by InfoCard because it meets the requirements specified by the website, requiring that I submit my first name, my last name, and my email address. Now, when I click Send, InfoCard will take that data, it will create an identity token from that data, encrypt it, and send it to the website for the website to use. There. The website has just received that token, decrypted it, and has used the information held within the token to identify who I am. Now, it's important to understand that InfoCard is not a username password manager. InfoCard is actually a very significant first step towards eliminating usernames and passwords as the primary means by which we authenticate ourselves online. But the authentication story is only part of the story. One of the other major reasons for phishing and various forms of identity fraud is this continued use of username passwords, not just for logging on, but also for several other scenarios as well, such as confirming bookings, paying for products, etc. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and explore using InfoCard in a slightly more advanced scenario. Here we can see the price of my booking. And it would be great to be able to get a discount against that price. Now, the Contoso site allows me to specify a coupon number or discount number or membership number in order to obtain a discount against my booking. Again, I can never remember those tokens, those numbers, those codes, and so on. But I noticed that InfoCard can be used in this scenario as well. Notice again the same consistent user experience appearing. You might also notice that whenever InfoCard appears, the desktop underneath appears to fade. This is a visual cue to signify the fact that InfoCard actually runs in a separate desktop from my logged-in session, making it much harder for hackers to be able to break in and steal my identity information. Now, this time round, the only card that I have which is currently lit up is my Fabricam Auto Group discount membership card. This is a card that's been issued to me by a trusted third party, the Fabricam Auto Group in this case, which meets the requirements, again, specified by the website. In order to obtain the discount, the website requires that I specify my membership number, name, type, and the type of the card, etc. Now notice, however, that in this particular card, there's no data about me. The data about me is actually stored within Fabricam systems. An InfoCard will go off and obtain an identity token containing the actual information about me dynamically from the Fabricam systems when I submit this card. So, let's take a look at what happens when I click Send. In order for InfoCard to go off and get my identity token from Fabricam, I have to authenticate to Fabricam so that they know it's me that they're releasing my identity information to. So I'm going to use a self-issued card that I used previously. I click Approve, and we've gone to Fabricam, we've obtained the security token, and then InfoCard again encrypts that and sends it onto the website. So here we are. We've just received a great discount against my car booking. We can see the discount's been applied. I'm going to use a credit card that I used on a previous visit to this site, and we're done. With just a few mouse clicks, I've now logged into the site, I've booked a vehicle, and I've confirmed my booking without ever manually entering any personal identity information. Now, in this demonstration, we've seen several things. We've seen Internet Explorer and some of the new features that it provides to help provide more safety and knowledge about who it is we're interacting with online, giving me much higher levels of confidence when I'm interacting with trustworthy sites and helping me identify those that might be malicious. We've just seen how InfoCard greatly simplifies the process by which I manage my online identities and helps us in the path of eliminating usernames and passwords as the primary mechanism by which we identify ourselves online, replacing those usernames and passwords with strong cryptographic tokens. Another important thing to remember is that behind the scenes here, when InfoCard communicates with the Fabricam service and with the website, it does so using entirely open standard web service protocols, which means that any party on any technology, on any platform, can build any part of this system. Now, I've only been given a few minutes up on stage with you this morning. If you are interested in this subject, we're running a breakout on Wednesday morning, where we'll be going through the innards of InfoCard and showing some code, etc. And we'll also be showing InfoCard being used to authenticate against a PHP website running on Linux. Thank you.
Thank you, Rich.
Thanks, Dave.
Okay, so far we've shown you a good browser experience from the end user's point of view and the opportunity that you have to enhance that experience with OpenSearch. I know that a lot of people have their notebooks out. If you go up to the sandbox in the sky right now, there are a bunch of samples, and you can actually start working on your site's OpenSearch provider as we're demoing. We've shown you the good browser experience and your opportunity. We've shown you the issues that users have having confidence doing business on the web and what we're doing about it and some of the opportunities that you have to make your sites better. Now, I want to talk about how to deliver your best site to customers. How can you put your best face forward when they come and want to do business with you on the web? And there are several technologies involved, and I want to start with CSS. Now, we all know that CSS, when it works, is amazing. And we know that there are problems with IE6, with CSS. I'd like to show you some of the work that we did on that. The key around the work in CSS, from my point of view, is that we listened to key leaders in the community. We listened to the Web Standards Project. We worked with them, and we had a very simple goal. We wanted to make every day better for every developer. Let me show you what we did. I'm going to come up here and open up a bunch of CSS comparison pages. And here is a very basic page that's got a bunch of boxes. And these boxes are pretty obviously not the same width, despite what the page author said. Page author specified a certain number of pixels as its width, and this is what IE6 does. And this is what IE7 does, live against the same source. Now, this might not seem like a big deal to you, but if it doesn't seem like a big deal to you, you're probably not a web developer who's stayed up until 3 o'clock in the morning trying to make things right. We've been listening. This is one of the most aptly named bugs I've ever experienced, the border chaos bug. This is a screenshot of what it looks like in IE6. I really doubt this is what the page author intended. This is the same page live in IE7, with IE7 rendering it right. Thank you. Now, I want to point out that this is not just a bunch of bug fixes. Right? We've also added support for elements and properties in CSS that we didn't have before. And this enables some amazing sites. Let me go up to one of Eric Meyer's pages. He's just amazing. And this is a Christmas tree made entirely from CSS. It's pretty impressive. This is what the same Christmas tree looks like in IE6. It doesn't really look like it's going to be very good Christmas in this browser. This other example, I'm going to ask you to go up and visit his site right now to see this. This is just cool, okay? Now, I'm not going to do it justice. I know that this area over here, that sure looks translucent, but I have to tell you, it's not actually translucent. He actually has a background image that's attached to the div in the middle, but that's anchored off the viewport. And for those of you for whom that meant absolutely nothing, don't worry, right? I'm sure there's a web developer in your life who will make this, right? And you should just see how this works. To me, the most important part of this is that it works right in IE7. And now, this is the opportunity for you to make even more attractive sites, better sites, that you couldn't do before in any other way because of IE7's better CSS support. And please try it. The materials that you have include compatibility toolkits and samples so you can get the most out of this. Now, I want to put CSS away for a moment and start talking about RSS. For me, RSS is an amazing opportunity because it's about an ongoing connection with your customer. We talk about connecting with customers, why won't customers listen to me, how do I get my message to customers? And I have to tell you, RSS is amazing because RSS is your customer saying, I care, I'm subscribed. You have an open channel of communication with me. What are you going to do with it? Well, our goal in IE7 with RSS was straightforward. We wanted to help RSS not just be more mainstream, right, but we wanted to help get it out of the browser and get it out of aggregators because it's so powerful and good. Let me give you some examples here. Here I am in IE7 at the MIX site, of course, and you'll see that the browser does what you'd expect a browser to do. It lights up, it discovers the feed, I can click the button, and I can get a nice rich view on this feed, and of course I can subscribe to this feed. Okay, seems pretty basic. But when I clicked subscribe, that was the platform. That was the platform kicking in a big way. Because you see, IE didn't subscribe to that feed. The user subscribed to that feed. And because the user subscribed to the feed and we have a platform here, every application in Windows knows about it and can do something with this. There's a Windows common feed list. And what that means is that every application can interact with this feed now. It can rely on the platform to download the content, to normalize and validate the RSS or the Atom, to go through and manage it. It can rely on that code to do all that stuff once, and then they can write their own richer code to do other things. Let me give you an example here. Now that I've subscribed, let me move the browser out of the way and show you the Windows Vista sidebar. Here is an RSS gadget. I'm going to go and change the feed that's being shown in this gadget, and when I drop this list down, it has the Mix blog that I just subscribed to. Again, IE7, the user in IE7 said, I'm interested in subscribing here. IE7 added it to the common feed list, and the RSS gadget, when offering the user which feed to show, showed the user that same feed list. So this gadget really wasn't all that hard to write, no offense to the gadget guys, because the platform does a lot of work. It was very easy for them to give users a great experience. Let me show you another scenario where around how to use this feed list. I use NewsGator Online, which is a web-based aggregator. And what's nice about this is anywhere I go, I have all my feeds. When I subscribe here, it goes with me. I'm at home, I'm at work, I'm at a friend's PC. I see all this stuff. Well, if you notice, when I subscribed, the Mix blog automatically showed up there. How did that happen? Well, they wrote a synchronization engine over here, NewsGator Web Feeds. And you'll see that what it does automatically is synchronize the Windows Common Feed list and what's in the cloud. And if I weren't quite running out of time the way I am right now, I would actually remove this, and then you'd see that it's synchronized here, but you can trust me, I hope. The point of the Windows Common Feed list in the platform is that we're getting the power of RSS out of just the browser and out of aggregators everywhere in the system. And the new version of Outlook, for example, as soon as I subscribe in IE, if you flip over to Outlook 12, you'll see that the platform sent a notification to Outlook, and Outlook is already showing you all the contents of that feed. All right. Now, let me show you another aspect of the opportunities of RSS. Today, when I talk with people about RSS, they usually think about blogs and news. It's all about blogs and news. Well, that's one way to connect with your customer, and that's a fine way to connect with your customer. But I want to show you another. I want to show you about rich data. What can you do with rich data when your customer says, I care about what you have, and I want to experience more of it? Well, let's go up here and take a look at a couple of feeds. I'm going to open these up, and I'm going to start with the most basic one, which is really still kind of blogs and news. This is MSNBC College Basketball. And this is the one-page view of RSS that I showed you before, but I want to dwell on this for a moment. If you look up over here, this is a piece of user interface that IE constructed based on the information in the feed. It tells you how many feeds there are. It gives categories, and MSNBC Sports hasn't really done anything with this, so this is just the categories that they have. And I can sort by date and title, which is kind of a blog and news kind of thing to do. As I type here, it will filter down. It will find and filter. For example, if I want to find out what's going on in the weekend, I might type weekend, and it'll filter down to weekend. Similarly, as I type any word, it'll go through and filter on if I ask for game, for example. These are the two items that actually have game in them. It's kind of useful. It's nice, but it's still, in some ways, just blogs and news. Let me show you what the Yahoo Music folks did with this. This is the Yahoo Music top video list. Okay, first, why would they want to do this? Well, we talked with them, and they want to deliver the richest possible experience to their users. And if you think about it, being able to have the top videos list and subscribe to it and always have it up to date is pretty powerful. They want to enable that good experience. If you look over here in the same box, it's not date and time. It's the name of the video, the name of the artist, and the actual top 10 ordering. So I can go from 10 down to 1 if I want to. Maybe I'll flip back, and I can sort by artist name. Okay, so they did it because there's a better experience. Okay, now how did they do it? Because that doesn't look like any feed that I've ever experienced before. They used the simple list extensions that we announced last summer to RSS. These are a set of extensions that are available under the Creative Commons license. This means anybody can use it. Any site, any aggregator, any browser, any piece of software can use these extensions. And what these extensions allow sites to do, allow publishers to do, is tag up their data. So for example, Yahoo tagged up, just put extra tags around this text here that said, hey, this has a list order aspect to it, and it's number 8, and it's numeric in case you're wondering. And then they included in the header something that says, when you tell the user what to sort by, include something called list order. And because they tagged it up that way, they enabled this really rich experience. This is live now, if you want to try it out in IE7. Let me show you what Amazon did. This is my wish list. Got it all set before I came to Vegas. So you can see that there are 10 items here. And, again, I can sort by a bunch of interesting things. And these are all different from what you saw before in Yahoo, because Amazon tagged it up in their own way, thinking, well, users might want to be able to sort by price or by sales rank. You can filter it down and see, what's the one DVD I care about, or what music do I have here, or which books are available. The point here from Amazon's point of view, right, is that they want to make it easy for friends to buy presents for friends. And this makes it easy. Instead of going and looking for the wish list, and I'm not going to add it to my favorites, and I'm going to have to start hitting these drop downs to find just the right thing. There's no round trip to a server. It's very easy for me to consume this, to subscribe to this, to get notified when people add or remove things from a wish list. It makes it very easy, I think, in some ways, to be a good friend. And again, that's live now if you want to go up to Amazon.com and start looking for wish lists and subscribing to them. Or sending a link to your wish list to a friend of yours so that they can subscribe to your wish list, which is probably a better thing to do. Let me talk about what eBay's done. You'll see that in the same way there's a word wheel box that I can go through and type game and see how many things actually have the word game in them. I can show all. I can sort by a completely different set of attributes. For example, when does the bidding end? And I can filter by a bunch of other options. eBay decided what they thought the best customer experience would be, and they tagged up their data appropriately. So eBay's doing this, Amazon's doing this, Yahoo is doing this. The top sites have invested. What about you? What information do you have that your customers would want to subscribe to and be able to perform these rich operations on? I want to give one last example that ties together these 2 points. I want to show you a Flickr feed. So we've all used Flickr. We all know what the page looks like. This is a view of Flickr, of this Flickr feed, in IE's rich one-page view. Now, I want to tie together experiences outside of the browser and the fact that blogs aren't just about text, and the fact that RSS isn't just about text and news. This is a full-screen display of the contents of that photo feed. In a few hundred lines of code, it was very easy for someone to write effectively a screensaver that works against the Windows Common Feed List. And what it does is takes all the contents which the platform already downloaded, sanitized, normalized, and just take that and say, I'm going to go full screen with it. You can imagine they could add rich effects. This is working live off of a Flickr feed. Again, the power of RSS, not just in the browser and aggregator, and the power of RSS, not just in blogs and news. All right, now I want to step away from RSS and get back to websites. I showed you how the CSS support in IE7 makes making attractive sites really easy. But what about interactive sites? What about sites that are smooth and cross-browser? Who here is using AJAX-style development? Just a quick show of hands. Okay, so there are a bunch of hands up. Let me offer the following observation. It's great, but it's really hard. It's hard to get started, it's hard to be productive, and it's really hard to get right. I want to introduce Scott Guthrie, General Manager in Microsoft's Developer Division, to show you a new developer technology he's working on to make this better.
Thanks, Dean. What I'm going to talk about today is a new project you've heard about this morning that we call Atlas. And the goal with Atlas is to make it much easier to build richer, smoother, more interactive web applications that work across all modern browsers and work on all client operating systems. And so specifically what Atlas provides is a very rich AJAX framework that nicely componentizes and encapsulates functionality for you and provides developers with a very clean object-oriented API they can program against. And Atlas uses standards-based CSS and XHTML markup, so even better, developers and designers can collaborate together to build really great solutions. And our hope is, at the end of the day, that we can dramatically lower both the costs and the complexities involved in building AJAX-based applications and really provide some great user experiences. So how does AJAX work, or Atlas work? Well, there's a couple different components of Atlas, one of which is our new set of client-side JavaScript libraries that we're introducing. These work with any modern browser. And they're nicely factored, so there's multiple different files that you can choose to use. And as a developer, you can basically choose and select what portion of Atlas you want to take advantage of, and basically, pay as you go in terms of capabilities, in terms of functionality. So we have things like drag-drop support. We have object-oriented language extensions to JavaScript. We have a better networking stack that's built on top of XML HTTP, but encapsulates a lot of the common things that you need to worry about today when you're talking to a server. These client-side libraries actually can be hosted on any web server. So if you wanted to, you could put them on an Apache or PHP site. And in fact, one of the breakout talks we'll do a little bit later on this week is actually going to demo an Atlas app taking advantage of that. Not too surprisingly, though, we have also then added a lot of support on the server side that's built into IIS and ASP.NET to provide even richer support for Atlas. So we have mashup bridge support, so you can integrate with Flickr and Amazon and eBay and take advantage of services there. We've also then done a lot of work to integrate the Atlas client libraries directly into the ASP.NET server-side programming model to provide kind of a super productive, super easy, super fast kind of development model that you can take advantage of. So one of the questions, I mentioned productivity, I've mentioned ease of use several times now. And one challenge is, okay, well, how do you show that and how do you communicate that? It's great to have customers come up and say it, but I was talking to someone who I knew was going to attend the conference about 2 weeks ago, and I sort of said, what would you like to see that would kind of prove that this thing is really productive? And his idea was, hey, you should just build an app from scratch on stage. Canonical Web 2.0 style app, let's say like a taskless app. And I said, oh, okay. And he said, not just a regular taskless app, I want to be able to page and sort through the data. And you should be able to filter items based on completed status or not. And you should be able to inline edit all the items in your list so that you can actually change them in a very smooth AJAX kind of way. And you should make sure it works on a Mac. So, okay. And then he said, well, and to really prove it, what would really convince me is if you type it all from scratch. No copy paste, no including of snippets. Start with a blank page and literally type everything in front of 1,700 people live. And so, Andrew, if you're here, I hope you are, because this demo is for you. And for those of you that haven't been to a Microsoft conference, we tend to do these kind of geek out code sessions. Don't get scared. We'll come back to slides in about 9 or 10 minutes. But hopefully you can see some of the productivity and benefits that you can get using our Atlas programming model. So we'll go ahead to our demo machine here. And what I'm going to go ahead and do here is I'm actually going to use a free development tool that we ship called Visual Web Developer Express Edition. So everything I'm going to show here, both the tools as well as the runtime, is available completely for free. Now, obviously, Visual Studio adds even more support that you can take advantage of, but using just the free tool, I get built-in WYSIWYG Designer, Debugger, IntelliSense Engine, and as well as a built-in web server I can take advantage of. So what I'm going to go ahead and do to start off with is I'm just going to go ahead and build a simple ASP.NET 2.0 site that we can take advantage of. To start off with, I'm going to add what's called a master page into the site, which is just sort of a common way I can go ahead and have a consistent layout across all the pages I'm going to build. And the one bit of drag drop I am going to do is I'm just going to add a style sheet into the site with some CSS that the designers worked on for me. And then I can go ahead and very easily add a little header here. And I'm just going to say, hey, this is Scott's to-do list. And then here we're going to put another CSS style, which is just my content. And contained within this div here, then I have what's called a content placeholder control. And the way this works is it provides a way that I can identify regions on a master template to fill in with content as I start building pages on my site. And so now I can very easily go ahead and add a new page. And I'm just going to base it on that master. And we'll just call this the to-do list. Based on that site master we just built. And now what I have is a simple UI here. It's picking up inheriting kind of the master look and feel. And now I can go ahead and add sort of some UI content into this page. And so to begin with, I'm just going to go ahead and say, add a to-do header. And I'm going to call this my to-do list items. It's really hard to type when you have 5 cups of coffee in you. It's fast, but not always accurate. So we're going to go ahead here, and I want to display a list of to-do items. And so I'm going to go ahead and use a built-in control in ASP.NET called the grid view control. And we're just going to go ahead here and set up a CSS class called grid view. And because we're going to have multiple items, I'm going to go ahead and also set up an alternating row class called even, which is just going to go ahead and let me have a slightly different look and feel for each alternating thing. And we're just going to go ahead and turn off our grid line support here. And now I have a simple grid that I can go ahead and bind data to. Because we're going to have a lot of items, and we got to make sure we have filtering, we'll just go ahead and also just add a checkbox here inside a category div, which is going to let people toggle whether or not they want to see all the items in our to-do list or just some of them. And so we'll just go ahead and add a checkbox. And I'll call this show all items. And there we go. So now I have, again, very simple kind of UI. Let's go ahead and bind it to a data access layer. And so I'm just going to connect up this grid to a data access layer built as a class object called to-do list. I can associate what methods I want to bind on this grid. So I'm just going to bind to a method called getTasks. And getTasks takes a show all parameter. And so I can actually either write code, or in this case here, I'm just going to go ahead and bind it to our checkbox list control on the page. And we'll enable paging, sorting, and editing. And since we don't really want to show our task ID column, I'm just going to remove it. Hit save. Let's go ahead and hit run. And now what I have here is a grid bound to my to-do task list items. I can go ahead and show and hide different items. So I can see whether it's completed or not. Hey, I haven't had dinner yet. I can update things in line and filter appropriately. And obviously, I can also sort and page if there's multiple items on the list. So very simple, to-do task list items. Didn't take me too long to build it. Let's go ahead and add the ability to add items as well, since that was one of the requirements. So we'll go ahead here, and I'm just going to add a little class here called insert header. And we're just going to say add new task. And I can display, again, some more UI to go against here. I'm just going to use one of the built-in controls in ASP.NET called the details view control. And we'll go ahead and just use standard space CSS to style it. And I'm just going to bind this to the same data access layer that we had before. And so, call object data source. I'm going to go ahead and enable insert mode on this particular control. I'm going to customize the UI and change the default mode to be actually insert instead of read only. And then we don't really need this complete row, so we're just going to go ahead and actually remove that. Hit save, hit run. And now I can also go ahead and, let's say, type faster as a task. Go ahead and hit insert. I've added a new task into my list, and obviously I can sort and page it, and away I go. So this is a very simple data-driven site. It's just using standard ASP.NET 2.0 and our free development tool. You'll notice a couple downside right now on this site is that it's flashing a little bit. And it's partly because we're deliberately using an image that highlights that on a big screen, but you can kind of see that this is not an AJAX-enabled site. Instead, we're actually going back to the server, retrieving all the HTML, and on each invocation, going ahead and actually blowing away the page and repainting it. And so I don't get that kind of smooth experience that I want to be able to take advantage of with AJAX. So the nice thing, though, is I can very easily take advantage of Atlas to provide that for me. And so all I need to do on this particular page in order to take advantage of Atlas is to use some of the new Atlas controls that are now built in. So for example, I'm going to add a script manager on the page. I'm going to enable what's called partial rendering, which is going to let me incrementally update regions of the page. And now what I can do once I have that control on the page is I can define regions of content that I want to make updatable. And the way I do that is just by using a new control called the update panel control. And the way the update panel control works is I can add what's called content within it, inside a content template, and I can put any markup I want, any CSS or server controls. So for example, here, I'm just going to go ahead and take this grid that we built earlier, and I'm going to move it inside. And then I can control whether I want every time this page to go ahead and update to repaint or redraw that particular portion of the page, or I can just set up what's called a trigger. And so specifically, I'm going to go ahead and set up what we call a control value trigger. And so what I want to do is say, hey, actually only update this when that checkbox list, when its enabled property changes. And obviously, I can write code to do even more fancy logic, but this will work for purposes of this sample. And now you'll see when I checkbox this, instead of the entire page being refreshed, only the updated rows are updated. And I now have a smooth AJAX experience integrated within this data site. Okay. Okay. Now, one of the challenges with AJAX is, the A in AJAX stands for asynchronous, and it works great when it's local on your own box. But when you have a lot of users out there and they're, working with your site, and your site's slow for some reason, you're waiting on some database call or something like that, how do you provide kind of visual clues to the user as to what's going on and avoid them, pressing the button twice or 3 times, or navigating away and kind of breaking your client-side JavaScript as a result. So one of the things that we've done in Atlas is provided kind of a nice mechanism as part of the overall Atlas framework that makes it much easier for you to go ahead and provide visual clues to the user as to what's going on in the site when a callback's occurring. So for example, if I want to go ahead and very easily add some UI here to do that, I could go ahead and just, let's say within this category, drop down a new control that we call the Atlas Update Progress Control. And within this control, I can go ahead and have a progress template of any UI I want, so any kind of standard, I have a div with whatever kind of CSS I want to position it. In this case here, we'll just add a div with a rule called progress. And I'm just going to go ahead and I want to be able to pop this particular UI up when a callback's occurring. And I'm just going to add an animated GIF called indicator, which is just going to go ahead and rotate and indicate that something's going on. And I'm just going to drop some text here called updating to go ahead and provide some sort of visual clue that that's happening. And then last but not least, I'm going to go ahead and deliberately, don't do this at home, go ahead and deliberately actually put a sleep statement in my code. So every time we update something, I'm just going to go ahead and say system.threading.thread.sleep, 2 seconds. Don't do this on your real sites. But what this will actually show you now is when I go ahead and update something, write little code, you'll notice the updating progress is occurring when the page updates. So the user has a visual clue as to what's going on within the site. Yeah. And of course, this also does work on a Mac. So let's go ahead and, last but not least, just go ahead and prove this. Pulling up the exact same page, write little code, there we go. Oh, no code. Go ahead, I think we're done. Update. You can see it updating. This is on a Mac again, and away we go. So hopefully that gives you kind of a good indication of some of the productivity benefits that you can see with Atlas. It really does allow you to almost immediately go ahead and AJAX enable any existing ASP.NET site. And as you can see, building a data-driven site with this type of capability is really easy and can be done in a completely cross-browser kind of way. The nice thing about Atlas, though, is you're not just limited to kind of doing basic stuff like I did here. You can really go ahead and take advantage of those client-side JavaScript libraries to really push the browser in some really kind of profound and innovative ways, taking advantage of some client-side script capabilities. So, no web conference would be complete these days without a map. And some kind of mapping app that we go ahead and show. Atlas actually includes a built-in map control that you can take advantage of, so you can just, without really writing much code at all, drop on a map and go ahead and put pinpoints on here. Since everyone has kind of seen that canonical map app already, though, what I want to do is actually show a slightly more innovative app that is actually live on the web today you can take advantage of, which is called local.live.com. This is actually the preview version. And what this is, it's your canonical map, but they're actually showing you in real time as you navigate around this app what the view would be through the windows of a taxi cab. And so you can actually kind of wander around through Seattle. One interesting thing is Seattle is significantly less light than San Francisco. It was raining that day. It doesn't usually rain. But anyway, so you can basically navigate around. You can even go ahead and get out of the car if you want to go ahead and walk, in which case you can actually get kind of a nice 360 panoramic view as you're moving around. Anyway, sort of some nice capabilities and kind of really showing off the client-side capabilities of what you can do with Atlas. And again, because Atlas is layered, you can actually choose what libraries you want to be able to take advantage of within your app. This particular app is using some of the lower layers of Atlas, what we call our runtime engine or compat engine for browser compatibility. And you can really push the system, though, in a lot of profound ways and ultimately build much richer experiences. So the last thing I just want to go ahead and show in terms from a demo perspective is another way you can go ahead and use Atlas to kind of even go beyond the browser and even in some ways step out of the browser frame. And that's just something that we're introducing called gadgets. And you saw some gadgets earlier on in Bill's talk where we actually, in the MySpace demo, you're able to sort of dock a gadget in the Windows sidebar and have a kind of a persistent experience as users navigating around the site. We're also starting today providing support for you to go ahead and build your own gadgets and integrate them within the live.com homepage. So any of your users can basically go ahead and take effectively a portion of your site and connect it into their homepage so that every time they launch the browser, they can see whatever kind of content you want within there. And building a gadget with Atlas is fairly straightforward. We have a breakout talk that you can actually attend this week, which I'll actually walk through doing so and provide some great samples. What I have here is just sort of a simple example of one, which is taking the taskless app that we built and using the client-side features of Atlas to go ahead and expose it and bind it dynamically on the client to a list. If I want to go ahead then and just sort of add this into my site, doing so is fairly easy. I can just go ahead and associate a link with the gadget that's running on my server into this page. So down here in our details view, just going to go ahead and just add a simple div link, which is going to go ahead and let a user visiting the site add it to their homepage. And now when I go ahead and run this, you can see I have this little plus live.com thing. If I go ahead and click it, it's going to go ahead and send a URL to live.com and allow me to go ahead and, as a user, choose to install this gadget into my page. So you can see here is the data that we wrote. Remember, wrote no code was what we typed before. I can add it into my live.com homepage. And I can even go ahead then and drag and drop it however I want as an end user, personalizing the experience on the page. And I can even, yeah, cool. And I can even go ahead and, for example, here take advantage of some of the even richer capabilities of Atlas, where I can go ahead and, let me just say go home, and do kind of inline editing of my task list directly within my browser. You'll notice when I tab away, the save button occurs. I can go ahead and save that, save it back into my server. If I went back to this to-do task list page, then somewhere here, well, I guess we finished that task. There it is, go home. So you can kind of see how you can easily take data, you can take your experiences, put them within a live.com page, and in the future go ahead and drag and drop them onto the Windows sidebar and really provide kind of a much richer user experience as a result. So sort of this quick taste of Atlas. We have lots of breakout sessions, so you can get a chance to see a lot more code and learn how to take advantage of it. Earlier on in Bill's talk, we had the MySpace folks come up and talk a little bit about how they're already using Atlas within their site and taking advantage of those capabilities. And one of the common questions that we've heard over and over again is, how can I get started? When can I go ahead and get started and taking advantage of these things? One of the things that we've done is actually been partnering with a number of customers over the last sort of 6 weeks to actually have them go ahead and actually implement Atlas and go live in production with it, and to kind of learn from those experiences and make sure everything's going smoothly. All three of the customers I'm going to talk about here are actually at the event. So if you want to talk to them and learn about their experiences, feel free to approach them. I know they'd love to talk about it. First one here I'll just talk about is Squeak.com, which is a subscription-based RSS service that allows you to go ahead and subscribe to an RSS feed over email. And what they did was they basically integrated Atlas to provide kind of a much smoother editing experience for those subscriptions and that data to take advantage of. The next one here is a company called TitleZ, or a site called TitleZ, which provides book data to authors and publishers so they can actually track to see how their books are doing on Amazon.com. And so they can look up historical sales rates and things like that. And they also then took advantage of Atlas to sort of integrate that capability directly into their editing experience and provide, again, a smoother customer experience. And then last but not least, a really cool site called pageflakes.com. Which provides kind of actually a live.com competitor, or sort of a digital dashboard kind of view where you can go ahead and have lots of aggregated information. You can subscribe to feeds. You can go ahead and really look at information in really rich ways. And they're also able to take advantage of Atlas for a lot of their networking functionality and integrate it nicely within their site. So all three of these sites, Squeak.com, TitleZ, as well as PageFlakes, are live on the web today. And again, they're at the conference and you can talk to them about their experiences. So a lot of people have said, this is great. I'm glad other companies are going live on it. When can I do it? Again, we spent the last couple of weeks trying to learn with customers, make sure we're ready. And starting today, we do believe we're ready to actually provide a go live license that anyone is now going to be able to use to go ahead and start taking advantage of Atlas and publish sites on the net that use it. So there's no restrictions on the license, doesn't cost any money. Atlas, of course, is free, as is Visual Web Developer, our Express Edition tool. And now, starting today, you can go ahead and download the March release of Atlas, which we posted this morning on the web, and go ahead and start building apps and great experiences with it. And our hope is, you'll be able to really build some great solutions that benefit not just the developer world, but also ultimately customers by having a much richer web to take advantage of. Yeah, no, thanks. And last but not least, go ahead and mention that we are also effective today starting up a mashup contest. So we have a couple great talks this week that'll talk about how you can go ahead and build mashups and use mashups. We're going to go ahead and provide a contest where anyone can go ahead and build an Atlas mashup that they want, so enter it into the contest, so win some great things, and hopefully it's a good way to go ahead and kick the tires of Atlas and learn from it and build great apps. So enjoy the rest of the conference. Hope you have a good time. Thanks.
Thank you. Wow. Wow, that was cool. Okay. I want to talk about another investment Microsoft's making in the space of delivering a really rich, amazing site experience to your customers. It's called Windows Presentation Foundation. You saw some examples this morning from the BBC in Bill's talk. I think of this as the first fundamental innovation in core PC presentation in over a decade. I think it's fantastic. I think about it as having three particularly interesting aspects. First, it brings the presentation silos together. User interface, documents, media. Right now, it's very hard to get those to play nicely together. And WPF does an amazing job with that. Second, the programming model. The programming model is not just high productivity for developers, but it's also designer friendly. And as the designs get more interesting and more sophisticated, you really need both. And last, it takes advantage of the latest PC graphics hardware in ways that I just don't know how else you do it. I can go on and talk at length about this. I know that you don't want me to. I don't think I'm interested in it. I'd much rather bring out somebody who's very skilled in design and knows design, and someone who has also used Windows Presentation Foundation. I'd like to introduce Andrew Sirotnik, the Chief Experience Officer of Fluid.
Thank you, Dean.
Thank you, Andrew. So, Andrew, why don't you tell us about the experience?
Sure, absolutely. Well, first, maybe a quick introduction to Fluid. So Fluid focuses on customer experience specifically for online retail. And where we specialize is in using design and technology to create really targeted, immersive experiences that meaningfully connect consumers with our clients' brands and products. So what does that mean? I have a video to show you a few examples of what I'm talking about. And it includes a project that we currently have underway with the North Face, where we are using WPF, or Windows Presentation Foundation, to create a totally unique and immersive in-store kiosk experience. So let's take a look at it. So in those examples that you saw, and also many others, Fluid is proving with our clients that having a richer customer experience done in the right way is netting them a direct business return. And so taking a step back and looking beyond our clients and at the landscape in general, what we see is online retailers pretty much have the basics covered. And they're switching their focus now from one on usability to one on differentiation. And retailers are seeing interactivity now as a brand opportunity to distinguish themselves from their competition, to deepen their customer relationships and engender loyalty, and in many cases to directly increase sales. Probably the last point that I would hit on that I think is relevant and hopefully interesting for you today is that these capabilities have been around forever in terms of internet time, and only recently have they gained traction. And there's two reasons for that, primarily. There's broadband and developer productivity. So with broadband, it's important to state that it's really here, and it's pretty well established that most transactions online happen between 12 and 2 in the afternoon, and those folks are at work, so your employees, and they're shopping over a broadband connection. And if you add to that a look at holiday shopping in 2005 of last year, 81% of consumers were shopping over a high-speed connection. And the reason any of that matters at all is because broadband customers spend more money. And depending upon which analysts you believe, it's 25 to 50% more than the average consumer. On the second point of developer productivity, these capabilities have been around for a long time, but only relatively recently have we had what we would call at Fluid enterprise-class developer environments. And that is a really significant and important thing. And so if you think back to the North Face kiosk example that you saw, that is a gargantuan project. And what you saw in the video is just our proof of concept, which is so fully featured, it's an application development in its own right. And we are doing the entire enchilada on WPF. And what you saw on the video, we developed start to finish in 6 weeks with a single developer who had no prior Windows development expertise. And I realize that that is the faster, better, cheaper, blah, blah, blah. You hear it at every show that you go to. But in this case, it's really true, and there's one unique component to it that I think is worth sharing, and that is, with that project, we are not doing what we already know how to do and we do all the time, just using a different technology. We are breaking new ground. We are totally out on a limb, innovating, and we are going to deliver for the North Face an experience that's a lot more like television than it is like the web. And so when we pair that innovation with those productivity gains, to us, the combination of those two things is truly remarkable. And the last thing I would say is, if you're interested in that, we have a breakout session tomorrow, Tuesday, at 1:30, and our lead engineer, Fluid's very own Darren David, will be walking through that project. So if you're interested, please stop by. Thank you.
Thanks, Andrew. Good job. Thank you. I want to introduce someone to show you an example of the power of Windows Presentation Foundation working in the browser. You've seen WPF, as I said, in Bill's presentation, and now I want you to see it again. I'd like to introduce Michael Wallant, General Manager of the WPF team.
Thanks, Dean. Good morning. So I'd like to show you a prototype of the My Yahoo portal, built in collaboration between Microsoft and Yahoo on top of WPF inside the browser. Now, when we talked to Yahoo, they told us a couple things about portals. There were two things that were really critical for their customers. The first was personalization, and the second was customization. So we can see now, when I go to the browser, just to My Yahoo with this application, I get the perfect experience for me. This is exactly the way that I wanted to see it laid out. I see all my modules easily arranged, exactly where I want them, ready to be interacted with. But that's really customization. That's not really personalization. Personalization at times can be pretty challenging, but they've done it in a really fascinating way. So let me come over here and click over, and I see basically a screen ready to be personalized, ready for me to go at it. Now, Yahoo's done an interesting thing with their module design. They let me actually get content from my buddies. So I'm going to go to my buddy network, and I'm going to see my friend Olinda, who has her own module. I click here, and it immediately comes into view so I can interact with it and see the experience that she had designed for me. So this really shows how personalization is much easier using the WPF platform. So let me go back to my first page, and we can see the page that I had initially customized. A couple things here. One is, because this application is built using the power of the WPF platform, they can do everything we had available in the platform. So one good example is in reading. We've spent a lot of time investing heavily in reading because people on the web do a lot of reading. But it's something that you really take for granted. But what we've done with WPF is made it so all the power of the reading platform, whether that's great subpixel clear type, great multi-column layout, great paginated flow, it's all available, basically for free. Oh, let me go back. So one more thing. So here we see this Yahoo Finance Explorer. Again, written using WPF. I can interact with it in interesting ways. And before I go even one step further, let me just hold on that thought and say, tomorrow you're going to see an even better version of this that really uses the power of the platform but works outside of the context of the browser. So hopefully with this very quick demo, you've seen how Yahoo and Microsoft together collaborated to build an awesome user experience using the power of WPF. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. So we've shown you several different presentation technologies, and I made reference before in introducing the Windows Presentation Foundation about this idea of silos. This is how I think about the world today from a developer's point of view. Today, there is no integration, there is no commonality between runtimes and programming models, the app model. It nets out to a least common denominator experience. And from a developer point of view, from a designer point of view, there are unrealized dreams. I think about what we're doing here as raising the bar, specifically in two ways. I think about a floor and a ceiling. I think about Atlas raising the floor of the basic web experience by making the AJAX style of development so much easier for everyone. So that raises the floor. At the same time, we want to push the ceiling up. We want to show how Windows Presentation Foundation, both inside the browser and outside the browser, can enable these extraordinarily richer experiences. How? By integrating these silos. Right? It lets you build the experience of your dreams. Second, again, the programming model. The programming model is good for developers and good for designers. And last, again, it exploits the hardware. If you think about the power of graphics cards today and the curve that they're on, there is so much power waiting to get tapped on the desktop PC. And this will help you tap into that as you build the experience that you want to represent your company. Of course, as Bill said, WPF is available both on Windows Vista and on Windows XP, and it's available in the browser as well as in standalone apps. So what's next? I want you to get ready for IE7, and we want to help you get ready for IE7. Think about taking advantage of all the opportunities that we've shown you so far today. How does your site render in IE7? Are you doing the most that you possibly can with RSS? Can I discover a search provider on your site so it's easier for me to search your site? Do you have search discovery? So it's even easier for me to find how to add your site to my search dropdown. These are just some of the opportunities that IE7 creates for you in connecting with your customers and making a rich experience. I want to recommend that you go to the IE Compatibility Lab and to as many of the hands-on sessions, as many of the breakout sessions as possible to see all these things. So what's next? Well, the conversation begins now. We're looking forward to listening to you. Thank you.